of you to this forum, Learning Cafe. Today we are having Dr. Abdul Rashid Kausar with us, and we are extremely honored and extremely grateful to have him here with us. Dr. Abdul Rashid Kausar is working as adjunct professor and advisor graduate at Department of Management and School of Business and Economics. He did his PhD in 1978 from Michigan State University, USA. He's been teaching, training, and consulting in the areas of organizational behavior, leadership and change, emotional, cultural intelligence, organic knowledge, management, and human capital development. Dr. Kausar has delivered many MBAs, MS, PhD courses online and on campus, and has successfully supervised PhD thesis and MPhil dissertations in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Malaysia. Dr. Kausar has also been appointed as member of the International Editorial Review Board of the International Journal of Knowledge-Based Organization, UK. Earlier, he had been serving UMT as Dean ILM, Institute of Leadership and Management, Dean SBE, School of Business and Economics, and Pro-Rector UMT, University of Management and Technology. Dr. Saab, welcome to our Learning Cafe. We are really honored to have you with us, and we are thankful that you have taken out some time from your busy schedule for us. Over to you, sir. Paradigm shift for academic competencies.
Thank you very much, Ji. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear colleagues, my respected faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I think let me share with you that it's a paradigm shift for me. Being associated with academia for the last 50 years, I have seen many shifts in academia, not to speak of any other sector of the society. As Madam Sadia was just mentioning, I completed my PhD in 1978 when there was no IT or ICT. That was the time when you have to spend more than 200 rupees per minute to call from United States to Pakistan, and sometimes you have to request the provider to connect you through the phone call. Now you can think of it. You have more than 2 or 3 phones in your pockets or purses, and the phone is free. So, having said all this, let me add one more variable in this paradigm shift. Over a period of 50 years, working with public sector universities and private sector universities, and in Pakistan and around the world. In the United States, I worked a few years at Ohio State. In Australia, University of Technology, Sydney, in Malaysia, and Singapore, and Sri Lanka. I do believe that every decade or so, no matter in what sector you are working, one should believe in shifting the paradigm. It's a model. You call it a business model, you call it a life model. I think it makes the life easy. One more variable for me at the personal level for paradigm shift, I have 6 PhDs around me at home, and you can think of it, dealing with 6 PhDs at home, 3 of my sons having PhD in HR and information system and marketing, daughter in entrepreneurship and innovation, and son-in-law in electrical engineering. How to deal with them, you can think of it. It's going to be a change every day. So my life experience is that one should always be ready for innovation. One should always be ready for shifting the model. Let me just give you one more information. The sun rises at an angle every day, and notice now, it will be a different angle when it will come up tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. So change is part of the life. I'm very thankful let me acknowledge in the beginning that this idea of innovation in academia, it's open for discussion in Pakistan, in UMT, in front of you. All of you are associated with academia. All of you are good enough master in your own field, but it's a emerging paradigm. They call it competency-based learning. And the idea was many months ago forwarded by the president UMT. Then Dean SBE initiated this in business school. He has formed a committee. And I'm thankful to Madam Sadia that he has launched this from the platform of CTL. So I can share my experience. I can share with you what the CBL and CBS education is and how in your discipline, in your area, what's in it for this in your discipline and how it can take us, how it can take UMT, how it can take you to be presented as an innovative faculty member. And the reason for this could be that the world has gone through various shifts. I think I don't have to speak too much about the COVID-19. The last 5-6 months, we have seen its impact on health. Now we are seeing the impact on economies. Because of the global world, it's affecting every sector of society. In academia, yes, faculty is affected, students are affected, so is management. So the question is, when world is going through a phenomena, how can you handle, how can you manage, how can you be successful in this changed world? Looking at the information and communication technology, again, I think you can see from 1980 onward, there are a lot of changes and still changes are going on. Let's come to the education sector. I think post 2010, you will agree with me that those traditional education providers at the global level like Cambridge and Stanford and MIT, and at Pakistani level like UMT and other universities of Pakistan, we see a parallel platforms emerging in the form of Coursera and iVersity. And how about People University? And many of you may have visited that. If not, please do visit. People University has more than 100,000 students located in California, offering either free of cost, bachelor and master's, or maybe very little amount of cost. And let's not forget, Google is coming up with its own platform. So the traditional campuses, how they are going to cope with this change, this paradigm, when the paradigm is being shifted in education. Speaking of education, and is particularly the role of teaching post 2020, that's my focus today. Are we still comfortable with campus class focus, or should we be comfortable and should we become comfortable with online and maybe a hybrid model? And I remember 2005, when I was visiting Virtual University of Pakistan, and they took me as a faculty member, and I was standing in front of the cameras and getting the courses recorded online. And now there are many courses on that platform, and the courses are open for all over the world. Semester focus. Are we still working in the semester focus model? Or can we let the students come at their will? Any time of the week, any time of the month? How would it work? Well, there are hundreds of universities who are working in this model. We have to see at UMT how it is feasible, how can we make it feasible, what are the pros and cons. Time bound. Semester starts, semester ends at one particular date and time. Can it be open and flexible 24/7? Maybe people prefer 24/7, sitting in their homes and offices. Evenings and mornings, working mothers, housewives, working professionals, people living in villages. And the question is, are we still focused only on the written books, explicit knowledge, theoretical knowledge. Yes, it is required at the PhD level, but right now my focus is BS and MS. Or should we encourage the explicit knowledge blended with the tacit knowledge, blended with the contextual knowledge, and the practice part should be blended with, and some philosophers call it phronesis. How a student with his life experiences, with his work experiences, can look into it, and how you and me as a faculty member can shift our paradigm in education. Coming to the employer side, are they looking for a piece of paper, or are they looking for a set of skills? In many sectors, I'll share with you, and by the way, living more than 10 years in the United States, nobody asked my degree. In Punjab University and in Karachi University and many universities in Pakistan, they ask you photocopy of the degree. They look for the demonstration of your skill set and the knowledge and the communication and the decision making which you exhibit and you present. And they make decision on the basis of that. And coming to academia, I'm using the word industrial mindset versus the service mindset. And I've added one more keyword: goods dominant logic versus service dominant logic. Service dominant logic is the logic of the last 10 years. Goods dominant logic is the logic of the last 200 years. Which means, should academia and teachers, you and me, should be supplier of knowledge only? Or should knowledge be a key resource and let the students' need and suppliers' need be given preference while designing and developing the curriculum? Again, it's a paradigm shift. The last part in paradigm shift is the academic competencies. And now, by the way, HEC is also asking for undergraduate framework to be designed on competency-based learning. How the students can demonstrate, can show. Which means for students, it could be grade-based, but I think the learning has to be performance-based. We will talk about this more in a minute. For teacher, should it be teacher-based or should it be competency-based of the teacher as well as of the student? And speaking of the administration, should it be time-based? Semester starting and semester ending? Should it be open? One can start every Monday of the week or maybe every first of the month. And as I said earlier, many universities around the world are working on this model. And for employers, again, going from the transcript based into a set of, let's say at the bachelor level, speaking in the business discipline, business administration, a set of 60 to 100. I've seen some curriculum. They were talking about 60 to 100 competencies, a set of skills which a student should be able to demonstrate through practice that yes, he knows, yes, she can think, and yes, she can demonstrate and she can exhibit. And speaking of the demonstration, it reminds me that way back in 1973, when I went to the office to get a driving license in the United States, they gave me a book. They said, go back, read the book, come back and take an exam. I read the book. Next week I came, I took the exam, and they said 90+% will pass you. I did pass the test. They said, this means now you know the theory. Now you will show it on the road that you can demonstrate that you can drive. And especially those who are familiar with Australia and UK and USA, Parallel parking is very difficult. And they focus that show us through demonstration that you can drive. That's what competency-based learning is. I think I covered this slide in my intro. So again, are we still cohort-based, or should it be a one-to-one where faculty will become a mentor and a coach? And again, a model of 4 years finishing bachelor degree. Why not in 2 years or 3 years and 5 years? Can it be done? How about if a student like Arfa Karim comes, who is a very fast learner, who can demonstrate, and if she can finish, and there could be many Arfa Karims in Pakistan, I'm confident of this. Pakistanis are no less intelligent than students of anywhere in the world. As I said, I've seen many students, including Americans. So if Pakistanis are so intelligent, then why 4 years? Can it be a less burden on the pocket of the parents? If they finish in 2 years, financial burden would be less. And you and me being a faculty member, by showing the demonstration, instead of giving them A, B, C, D, and F grade, which means there could be a rubric for different assessments. One rubric, I've shared this with you: novice, beginner, competent, proficient, and master. These are 5 levels of demonstration of a certain skill set. And I'll share with you some of these skills. Of course, from discipline to discipline, things will change. So my dear colleagues, my dear faculty members, you are expert and master in your own disciplines. And you have to see what's in it for you and what's in it for the discipline, and how, if we can do it on our own way, like business school is doing, or maybe when HEC will ask to develop an undergraduate framework on the basis of CBL or competency-based education. So should we be being in UMT? And this reminds me, late Dr. Hassan Sohaib Murad, who always would like to be ahead of the group, ahead of the crowd, being a leader. He introduced the concept of leadership in Lahore in 1990 when nobody knew what leadership is. So my expectation today from you is, can we make UMT the first innovative university, changing the curriculum, designing a curriculum, coming up with a different mindset and a different skill set at the faculty level, at the student level, so that the employer can be happy with it. Student can be happy, parents can be happy. Competency-based learning, my dear colleagues, is a system of schooling where students acquire degree credits through demonstration. Demonstration of what they know. So the content is available, maybe on Moodle or on LMS or on Wikipedia or on Google or wherever, by the resource person or by the colleagues or by the net, and then can think and can do. So visual part, audio part, and kinesthetic part, all of it put together to demonstrate that yes, I can do it. So in other words, bachelor and master level degrees where the task is given to a joining professional. Competency-based asks that you design your curriculum to be task-oriented through a flexible pacing and a direct link to work and industry. Remember the triple helix model where the academia and the government and the industry has to work together? That's what competency-based learning and the universities who have adopted this model, they're trying to do, and making their graduates' life easier, and so is the employers who feel comfortable with that. So CBL focuses on the outcomes of learning. I think many of you are familiar with learning outcomes. And I think you will say that many programs we have designed, even at UMT, they have course outcomes and program outcomes, learning outcome. Yes, that is true. Being a student of knowledge management myself, learning is a process of knowing. But here the focus is outcome of knowing. After you know it, you have the explicit knowledge. Can you blend in the context? Can you think now and reflect on it? And can you demonstrate? That is the outcome of learning, outcome of knowing. And the learners are expected to do rather than expected to learn only, which means it's an active learning. It is going to transform the students as well as the faculty member. Again, it reminds me, being a student of quality management, Professor Deming, the Japanese take him as a prophet of quality. He said, there are approximately 10 million babies are born in the world every month. You can convert this into a day, how many babies are born. And Professor Deming said, he was talking to the CEOs of the Japanese companies. He said, how would you like that when a baby is born, and there are many babies which are dropped during delivery on floor for one reason or the other? Would you like to have one baby drop? And how about if that baby is yours? So the quality should be 100 out of 100. And then went into the 6 Sigma model. 1 million tasks, there should not be more than 3 tasks which should be less than quality. That's transformative learning. He said, every student which comes to school, it is the responsibility of the faculty member and the school. He or she should not fail. Because when you fail him in the course, you fail him in the program, actually you're failing him in the life. And not many of them can be like Bill Gates or Apple CEO, क्या नाम था उसका, Steve Jobs. So CBL is a constructive, it's a contextual, it's collaborative. You interact with peers, colleagues, academia, faculty, and reflective. All of these faculties of the student and faculty member, the teacher, has to be blended together. It is personalized. It is not individualized. Individualized consulting and counseling, we are doing it at UMT. Many universities are not doing it, but we are doing it for many, many years. It is personalized, which means Rashid, as a faculty member, is associated with Hamid throughout his career at the university, 24/7. Now, how then resource person and resources has to be work together, this is a challenge for academia. And it requires mentoring and coaching from the faculty. And when I say coaching, coach, always demonstrate. And if you like to see the ideal model of coaching, maybe you should go and visit the PMA Kakul. When in the winter of Ahmedabad, the cadets are not willing to go in the morning at 5 o'clock. The coach, sometimes he's a Havaldar, sometimes he's a major. He will put his shirt on and a knicker on, and he will walk in front and he will call the cadets, come on, let's go. Let me coach you and show you how we have to cope with a situation. Some universities I've mentioned here, I think the Purdue, Michigan, and Wisconsin are part of the Big Ten. Some other universities are mentioned. Western Governors University, although it's an online university, but I think they were the one who are the leader in this competency-based learning. But now there are more than 600 universities in the United States and many universities around the world who have already adopted the competency-based learning. Which means, my dear colleagues, this education, competency-based education, focus on integration and synthesis. आप में से जो लोग Bloom's taxonomy के model को भी सामने रखें. So it's an integration and synthesis of information and experience. Here comes the difference. Information and experience. to create a working knowledge, which I was calling phronesis, according to Aristotle and according to Professor Nonaka of Japan. To create a working knowledge, and please remember, this model of working knowledge, this paradigm of working knowledge will be different for every student, because information and experience is again personalized to be used in the real world. It's adaptive to changing needs of the students, the teachers and the community and the employers. It focuses on how students will learn, not how and what content to be taught to the students decided by the teachers. Sorry, with respect to you and me, because that's you and me who decide what content to be placed in the course outline. Multiple perspective. This means competency-based education has a multiple perspectives, multiple methods of measurements and deliveries. Plus, the level and pattern of evidence will also be different for all of us and for all the students. Because level of evidence, as I said, could be novice, could be beginner, could be competent, could be mastery. But competent level is a good enough level that one should be able to pass from one skill set, from one competency to the second. So you start maybe, for example, from the university level competencies, you move into the program level competencies, course level program, university level, course level, program level, and you design according to your own discipline how the evidence has to be exhibited. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, it's a career crafted curriculum. So there is no one single recipe to be shared with all of you, designed by faculty in consultation with the practitioner and those practitioners who are scholars. So in other words, we are talking about scholars and managers blended together. And now there are many in the industry. And speaking of industry, do we think that industry needs have also changed? And especially in this post-COVID and during COVID time period, think of it. I focused on the economic and health impacts. How about the social impacts? Husband is seeing the face of the wife and wife is seeing the face of the husband. Children are staying at home and it is causing many blessings and many disguises. Needs are changing. I focused here on the content industry. Does the content industry, content for Facebook, content for web pages, content for Google, content for sports, content for you name it. The content industry is a $1 billion industry. Do they need a bachelor or master degree, or do they need a mastery in language? I was just speaking to Dr. Shaban. I think he will agree with me that the language and the way you present your language in the form of sentences, it makes a hell of a difference. For example, let me share with you, my dear faculty members, value what you know. Value what you know. And most important is, know your value. Is it relevant to the present market? My knowledge of 1978 with a PhD from Michigan is not relevant anymore. If you have to be relevant, you can't say that I was not familiar with IT in those days. I was not familiar with HTML in those days. I spent $2,000 to went to Singapore to learn HTML. I never used HTML, but I wanted to know this is the language of the web. So content industry, design industry. Your thoughts are needed, your tools are needed. Do you know how to handle the tools? And do you know how to create your thoughts? You may have a bachelor degree. Yes, okay, fine. IT industry. Prove it. Demonstrate it. You know Java, you know C. Are you familiar with different models of software engineering? Do you know the communication language, the networking language? And let me mention here, when I joined ILM, UMT way back in 2000, I think that employee, that staff member, very respectable staff member, is still at UMT. He was metric in that at that time, and he was master of communication, master of networking. He had a highest level exam, which was only being offered in Dubai, and Dr. Hassan sent him to Dubai to take the exam. He is the master of networking. So IT industry and information and communication industry is where you demonstrate that you know. Online retail, and I'm not talking about the retail of the consumer goods. Think of the retail as a restaurant industry. And what is the importance now after COVID? Think of the retail in the supply chain industry. Think of the retail with Cream and Uber. All of this is now GIS based. That rickshaw driver and motorcycle driver and the car driver, I think you can see he's handling the information system on Google to go and get the job done and earn the money. And I'm mentioning the consulting industry, home care. Many medical care industry leaders in Lahore, in Karachi, in Islamabad, they're offering their eye health and home care at your home. And how about coaching care? Many smart school teachers and madrasa teachers in Lahore, they're teaching Arabic and Quran through net, through Facebook, and earning hundreds of dollars every month. The Imam of Masjid in my village in Khanewal, he learned from me how to use the computer, and in making hundreds of dollars sitting in a village. That's coaching care. You coach for computing, you coach for Quran, you coach for design, you coach for whatever. This is the need of the industry, not in Lahore, but in the whole world. So my dear colleagues, this is my last slide. The question is, what is the way forward? Yes, there are challenges. Yes, it is a discipline focus. Although many schools, they're offering business, I think more than 50% degrees in business, in healthcare management, they're already available through this model. But again, issue of contextualization is there. How are we going to handle it? Challenge of accessibility. हमारे यहाँ नेट का प्रॉब्लम है, हमारे यहाँ पैकेज का प्रॉब्लम है, हमारे यहाँ बिजली का प्रॉब्लम है, many problems. Yes, I know it's a challenge, but challenge of accessibility and how the university and academia can make it accessible, and how the university is going to be flexible enough to accommodate this flexibility. Students are paying on quarter basis right now. They're paying their tuition quarter basis, right? In UMT. It's also flexible. You can make it monthly basis like in schools, many schools. But how about if it can be flexible enough that I want to finish a course in 1 month and pay you in 1 month? And there are other models as well. Affordability for universities. Because as I said, if the tuition will go down, it will affect their balance sheet. Yes, I know. So the question is, affordability by the universities for the universities has to be managed. There is no one solution for everybody. There is no one type of paradigm for every discipline. But the question is, if this is the way forward, we have to move from learning outcome to outcomes of learning to competencies. So then how are we going to handle it and manage it? Sometimes it comes from the regulator. Yes, then we have to do it. But before it comes from the regulator, how can we develop an instructional pedagogy because we are all faculty members, so that we can be comfortable enough in terms of presentation, in terms of delivery, in terms of content, in terms of knowing, in terms of doing, in terms of assessment methods, what kind of projects, what kind of assignments, how they, could it be a portfolio basis? Many disciplines still are working on portfolio, like in media, like in design. You present your portfolio and portfolio is assessed. And then how it could be assessed by peers and how the industry could be our peers. That's where I like to bring in that can one course be attached with IBM, one content be attached with IBM, one module can be associated with Chughtai Lab, one module can be associated with a manufacturing company, one module could be associated with the service industry. So I don't know, there are many models for engineering, for science, for language, for education, for other disciplines, and for business. So my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this is my experience that in the last 50 years, changes have been there. Changes will always come. Yes, change is painful, but there is no gain without a pain. And I think if we can take a pain ourselves and keep some painkillers around, or maybe some healers around, life could become easy. I hope in this post-COVID time period, let the life of yours and the life of the families be easy, and it should be easy for all of us. Thank you, and thank you very much, and thank you for your sharing your time and resources. I can see Dr. Shaban like to ask something. Maybe I request Dr. Madam Sadia, you can moderate if I don't see any hand here. Ji, please, Dr. Saab.
Thank you so much. It was such a wonderful conversation, and this was, very helpful, especially the time that we are going through. I will express my own observation quickly, and then I will come to the question. And specifically regarding the pandemic. Yes, pandemic has forced the education industry to review its current, working model. Indeed, our working style demands renewed attention to keep pace with affordable, intensive, practice-based education, as you have rightly said, as is the case in most online education. I believe the success, this is my observation, a success of private universities, especially in Pakistan, is a failure of public universities. You may disagree if you want to take. Moreover, the success of many online, practice-based education and certification, like Google is one of them, is introducing career certificate program. I think that will be failure of many private universities and colleges across the world, and there will be a total disruption. So do you think that our face-to-face teaching is going to be disrupted and we have to think about online model, which should be more career-focused, career-crafted curriculum, as you have rightly talked about? Yes.
Dr. Saab, I'm not saying it has to be a certificate type of industry. We have to design a program where it should be, maybe you can call it a course, but I'm calling it that a content which is linked with certain competencies. So it's not a certificate. So as I said, for example, a bachelor degree in business I've seen in one university, they have listed 60 to 100 competencies. You can call it a 60 to 100 modules. That one module and starting from the basic, going to the advanced, to the elective, whatever name you like to call it. As one university is calling it university level competencies, the way we call it today, general education courses. And then the program level and the course level and different names are being used. So these are not certificates. It is going to be a program of certain courses. You, rather than courses, you're calling them, in courses, you're focused on content and knowledge and theory and concepts. Here we are talking about knowledge and concept and theory blended with a demonstration. So it's an assessment method of developing a portfolio. So it is not only, I agree with you, it is not going to be only online. Again, it is yet to be discussed. Is it going to be a hybrid? Is it going to be face-to-face when you're talking about a personalization, coaching? It is going to be some sort of mix. You use the word disruption. I'm not going to say it's going to be a disruption. You cannot rule out a face-to-face. We use a word which is called creative destruction. And sometime for a new paradigm, you need a creative destruction. So in instructional pedagogy, maybe we also need a creative destruction.
Wonderful. If
Dr.
I'm
Nadia,
allowed to ask, yeah, if I'm allowed to ask one quick thing, I'm so sorry. There's some interesting discussion, but most of the employers, they are, as you have rightly said, will demand eventually competence-based skills, and they may not require 4-year degree or 16-year degree. So in that case, don't you think like we have to at the long run think about a more curriculum in a way that can impart competence to learner in less time, and we have to, again I have to use this word, disrupt this 4-year degree program or 16-year degree program or 18 years degree program.
I think CBE, competency-based education, it doesn't want to disrupt the degree. Yes, degree is there. But the question is, who said it should be 4 years? Maybe 100 years ago, it was 4 years. But after 100 years, many models have changed. Could it be 2 years? I finish in 2 years. Still, many PhD students, I think you have seen experience, many PhD students are not able to write a good paragraph in good English. So demonstration is becoming more important. That's what the focus of this new competency-based model is. Degree is there, but why 4 years? Could it be 2 years, 3 years? It should be according to my pace. I could be a slow learner. I could be a fast learner. So if I'm a fast learner, why you want to keep at the university for 4 years? Why in cohort? Why not personalized? So these are different questions which are opening new channels of discussion. जी, डॉक्टर नादिया कुछ कहना चाह रही थी? डॉक्टर मैडम सादिया, आप जरा देखिएगा, कोई अगर मुझे मैं मिस कर रहा हूं तो आप जरा प्लीज इंटरवीन कीजिएगा.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम sir. It's Dr. Nadia here, and it's a pleasure to be listening to you after a long time.
Thank you.
And I still remember our eventful and wonderful Basar discussions during the meetings. And with this, I would really like to appreciate the selection of your title, which is the paradigm shifts. And I've been looking into this phrase for some time now. And since Thomas Kuhn first used this, term for circumstantial shifts that happen in the history of the world. However, my question to you is that can we say that this pandemic situation is a circumstantial shift, another historical transitional phase, or is it going to be something phenomenal for the coming generations? Because we need to revive, review, and revise all our previous rubrics in order to equip ourselves to the challenges of the coming world. And with this question is related another question, which is that when you were talking about your past experiences, you did tell us something that is very much like preparing yourself for the world that we are facing today. Because in America, you had those experiences many decades before this pandemic has happened today, and it has required us to change our thinking. But you had been equipping yourself for the corporate sector, for the industry, for the competency-based education. So do you think that there was something lacking in the educational system that had to be changed radically before we could have faced such a situation?
Thank you very much. If there is any other faculty member who would like to address to these questions, you are more than welcome. I'm not the only expert here. You're all competent and master in your given discipline. I think, Dr. Nadia, the experience I have seen in the last 50 years associated with academia, this is a phenomena. Corona may go away, but the changes which it has brought to the social life, to the economies, to the academia, I think it's going to stay. That's why I'm calling it a paradigm shift. The leaders of academia like Cambridge and Harvard, they had to change their models, and they're still thinking what changes can be brought. I have never seen in the last 50 or 100 or 80 years at least in my life, which is 70 plus, that a country like United States would ask their F and H visa, J visa holders to go back to their home because the teaching is online and you cannot stay in United States. And that's where the Harvard and MIT went to the court, and the decision has to be changed. So phenomena is going to stay. That's why we are calling it a paradigm shift. This is one part of your question. And second is that when the phenomena is going to stay, then the question is, do we have to be part of the crowd, or should we think ahead of the time? As I mentioned earlier, there was no IT, there was no ICT in my time. So if I want to be relevant with the life, if I want to be relevant with the family, if I want to be relevant with the society, with academia, I have to update, I have to change my model, I have to learn new way of doing things. Just for this sharing of information, I have a PhD in chemistry. I changed my model from chemistry to social sciences and management in 1990 onward. Earlier, I'm also a Darsa Nizami. So 3 different areas tells me a quotation from one of the Muslim scholar that a river has 2 banks. One is the religion and the other one is reason. The religion and the reason and the logic and the illogic together has to work, and that's where the river will reach the destination. So I think we need to blend the local context with the logical way of academia to come up with a contextualized answer for our program, for our degrees, for our bachelor programs in the given discipline. It is going to be a challenge, but I think in UMT, we are always have been taking challenges. And if the HEC is already coming up with a new undergraduate framework based on the competency-based learning, I think we have already taken the lead. And in the beginning, I acknowledged the Center for Teaching and Learning and the Dean of SBE and President UMT that we are talking and discussing this. So I think let's get ourselves familiar and get ready with the paradigm shift.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much.
Khalil Arbi Saab.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I hope that
Assalam.
you can hear me.
Ji, yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, sir. Thank you very much, first of all, for having a great presentation and picking a great topic for us to learn again from you. I really enjoyed your every point, every single point you have mentioned in today's presentation. I was just thinking about the paradigm shift you have explained very well here. The paradigm shift in education. I mean, there was a time when people used to say that total quality management, and you have rightly mentioned the quotations from Mr. Demings. And then you gave us the explanation about the service dominant logic, SDL, and then goods dominant logic. That's what, again, very fine and very excellent ideas from your side. I was just thinking that, do you think this is a time to think about competency-based learning, a competency-based education, where we can say that the total shift in the atmosphere of education needs to be take place right now? I mean, from the knower, knowing and doing, from the knower perspective to move into the doer perspective, in where we can contextualize the phenomena of industry and people healers and everything. So do you think that we are facing even a bigger challenge right now? And we have to prepare our academia, our staff, our faculty, our researchers to come up that challenge, that they can bring a real innovative educational systems for our new generation, for the students who are joining universities. Then they should have a totally different type of challenge to cope the doer perspective, to meet the challenge of doing. I mean, from the knowing perspective is fine, but now that we have a bigger challenge of doing, to elaborate, to show that there is a great need to perform for the sake of career, the sake of industry career, industry career. I just wanted to have your take on that.
Yes, Khalil Bisab, first of all, let me pray on the sad demise of your father. May Allah place him in the heavens and give the family
Thank you very much,
patience. Choice is with us always. Do we want to be leaders or do we want to be laggards? And always you will find people and companies and societies and communities and families who are leading families and who are laggard families. I still recall in the early 90s when the phenomena of quality management was forced from the developed world into the developing world companies in Pakistan, in Lahore. And I again recall late Dr. Hassan Sayyid Murad, who was a very innovative and a leader type of personality I have ever seen in my life. He called me from home and he said, Dr. Saab, go and attend the lead auditor course. And you know, the fees in 1906 was $1,000. And the provider was British Standard Institute. And the failure rate was 30%. I said, I'm already PhD and you want me to go through this challenge, and if I fail, what would happen to me? He said, Dr. Saab, we have already paid $1,000 for you, and you go and you attend the course. So the question is, challenges are always there. And after spending that $1,000, I became consultant for Tetra Pak and, you know, many leading companies of Pakistan. And I still remember when the Lexan Tobacco and this Procter & Gamble chairman, Iqbal Lakhani, came from Karachi to UMT and learned about knowledge management and quality management. So I think it pays off. So to address your question, always a challenge is there. And the one who takes the challenge is always ahead of the crowd. I think that's where the leading role comes of the UMT. It has been taken in the past. The employer side, again, they are facing the international phenomena. Now the world is global. One of my PhD student, Umar Ayub, was here. I was talking to him. He was doing his PhD on a company based in Faisalabad, Interloop. It's the world leader of making socks. In many sectors, China is the world leader. But in sock manufacturing, their customers are Levi's and Adidas and Nike and all this. And the company is in Faisalabad. And what we knew from working with that company and the CEO, that they are ahead of their time. And you have to be ahead of time. So coming back to the academic area, we have to design the program and the content and the competencies, how it is going to be. For example, I said for a business type of program, it could be 60 to 100. For a psychology or maybe health related program, it could be 150 at the bachelor level. And how it is going to be blended and making it demonstrable. That's why I use the word portfolio, because in certain disciplines, portfolio is a very well accepted norm. Yes. And you have to show the portfolio, not the transcript. It's a challenge. And I think with people like you and all who are listening to me at the UMT, we have been taking challenges and we can take this as well.
That's great, sir. Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Ali Chauhan here. Sir. So my question is that when we are looking at, as you were clearly mentioned, going forward, do you see this as becoming a norm in the education sector in Pakistan also, as it is becoming something of more lately because of the convent? Do you see that happening in the near future or in the upcoming time that we are going to go into, because of the online teaching and everything?
I think let's not associate this competency-based learning with COVID. COVID has provided a phenomena, like Dr. Nadia was saying. It's a phenomenal effect. It has come, and I think those schools and colleges and universities who were not familiar with it and who were not wanted it and who never wanted to have it, they were forced to go into the online teaching. What can they do? All of us, you and me, whether you like it or not, we have to sit in front of Zoom and learn the technology and this and that. Many universities, I said about 600 of them in the United States and many others, they are doing it even before COVID. So it's not something which is related with COVID. But yes, COVID has provided a phenomenal shift and a fast-paced shift. And technology is helping that people can look into it when it comes to demonstration. For example, can you demonstrate that you can use Zoom and present? I was not familiar with it, but I had to make myself familiar, because if I have to be relevant in my domain, in my discipline, in my job, in my task, I have to be handling the technology and demonstrating it. So I think post-COVID, yes, online, it's not only for online. UMT is not only online. It could be hybrid. It could be mixed. How it is going to be from discipline to discipline, it will change. One model could be totally class-based, campus-based. Maybe tuition rate is different. One model could be total online-based. Tuition may be different. One could be mixed. The tuition may be different. So there are various models. It has nothing to do with the COVID. It is a phenomenon. And I think, by the way, when Ali Chauhan Saab, if HEC is talking about it and they are bringing it in their undergraduate framework, being a regulator, I think sooner or later they are going to ask that, let's do it.
Yes, sir. Take it.
Yes,
thank you.
I'm Umar Ayub, your PhD student as well. I've learned a lot throughout my year from you. We all actually, what we have experienced by taking classes online in this last semester, that there were many challenges though, but students were not very willing to adopt this mode. So by taking help from your experience, what ways and means we could adopt in coming days or coming weeks to change that mindset? Would you please tell us a little bit?
जी डॉक्टर नादिया कुछ कहना चाह रही थी, लेकिन क्विकली चेंज ऑलवेज इज डिफिकल्ट. स्टूडेंट तो विलिंग नहीं थे, क्या टीचर विलिंग थे? बहुत सारे टीचर भी विलिंग नहीं थे.
सही बात है.
जी डॉक्टर नादिया.
Sir, thank you very much. Just a quick question. You have just said something that has triggered this concept about faculty buy-in. Those people who are at the position of leadership and who are dealing with their faculty, what suggestions do you have in order to get their acceptance, ward off their fears, and make them work in collaboration with the rest of the university? So in other words, what strategies you have for faculty buy-in?
That's a very good and innovative question. I think if anybody else would also like to address to this question, you are more than welcome. I think it's not going to be easy, but one way could be, for example, if the, I'm talking about the bachelor program, if the employers are our stakeholders, then we have an active link with the stakeholder who are the employer of the graduates, and have them in our board of studies. Of course, there are one or two of them, and they are sometimes passively sitting and giving their input. But now we are talking about active input, because the learning is active, which means, for example, like I've seen in School of Business, that if, let's say there are 60 competencies, we divide them into a chunk of 3, so we're talking about 20 modules. One module preparing for 3 competencies, for example. Then that module, let's find a industry stakeholder or industry player who is good in that particular sector. And we involve them, and maybe we name that module in their name. Like I mentioned the name, this course will be taught, this is an IBM data analytics. They are the leader of the data analytics. In language or in other areas, we can see how it can be managed and handled. So stakeholders are in, that will cover one side. The other stakeholder is the faculty. Naturally, faculty is the one who becomes faculty because he agreed to disagree. So we have to persuade them, we have to convince them, we have to talk to them, we have to manage them, we have to make them buy in. There are many tools. I've used it as a faculty member, I've used it as a dean, I've used it prorector. So I think there is not one solution, but I think every logical step, faculty do listen, and sooner or later, I used to make one group of faculty who are the leaders, the other group of faculty who are the owning of your idea, other group of faculty who are the sponsors who like your idea. There could be one or two faculty member who you call them laggards, or who will join at the end. So I think maximum you can come up with a strategy that faculty will buy in. Of course, when the regulator will ask, they have to buy. There is no other choice. But I would rather go for a transformative answer and look into buying in with the body, mind, and heart. Then I think spirit can be blended, and the solution would be much better.
Thank you, sir.
मैडम सादिया, आप टाइम का अगर कोई इशू है तो आप बताइएगा. मैडम सादिया सुन रही हैं?
Okay.
Sir,
जी.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I was having a very, very weak connection in last like 10 minutes. So I hope, and Zoom was keep throwing me out. So I really had to connect back again and again. I hope nobody noticed that. Anyway, this one is going to be the last comment or question by Fatma Sajad, and then we will wind up our session.
Okay, thank you so much. Sadia, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, Dr. Rashid Kausa, thank you so much. It was very insightful, and I totally agree that we need flexibility in our education system. We do need, and we need to keep changing to make it more effective. I totally agree there. But there is an alternative paradigm to this competency-based neoliberal education model, which is critical pedagogy. And they raise some important questions on this model. So coming from that perspective, I would like to ask, in this framework, what is the purpose of education? And you were talking about teachers agreeing to this model with their heart, mind, and body. I think that is very important. And I think that can happen if we are contemplating on the purpose of education, the broader purpose of education, which we have in this particular neoliberal paradigm. Is it only catering to the demands of the market? Or is it only catering to the demands of the industry? Or do we have a higher purpose of intellectual growth and all that as well? Because I think we can produce Steve Jobs and Bill Gates through this type of competency-based education, but perhaps not Karl Marx or Noam Chomsky or Iqbal or other people who question the trends and who actually contribute to the paradigm shift. So this is my question. What is the purpose of education in this type of education model?
Thank you very much, Madam Fatma. I think you have asked towards the end of the session a very philosophical question. Critical paradigm, I agree with you. There has to be a purpose. There should be a purpose of education. There should be a purpose of life. There should be a purpose of everything. Critical paradigm is also an inclusive paradigm, talks about different sectors of society, not only the employers or the industry. But critical paradigm, to my understanding, is also having a multiple perspectives. So one aspect of competency-based learning is it is catering to a multiple perspectives, number one. Number two, it also talks about contextualization, which is also part of the critical paradigm.
True.
Number three, it also calls for a reflection.
Yes.
Inclusive reflection. So yes, task has to be done. For example, I think I gave some example maybe in my intro session on YouTube, that if a business case has to be developed for again, since I'm coming from the management discipline, so I giving a business related example. If one has to make a business case, now this business case could be for a business industry, this business case could be for a non-profit company, this business case could be for a family as well, because family also has a certain purpose, certain business. Business simply means there are certain resources to be managed to achieve certain goals in life in a given time with the best outcome. So I think in the critical paradigm, it calls for multiple perspective, higher level of purpose. And let me add one more thing here, that bachelor level students, we don't expect them from triple loop learning. Up to a double loop learning, yes, okay, good enough. But I think most of the time when in this content which we are teaching now in the teacher-based, it is a zero loop learning. I wish it could become a first loop learning. But second loop learning is calling for the thought process, that use your reflection to way of doing things. But you're talking is the triple loop learning, which is probably at the master and the PhD level. Very few will have at the bachelor level. Bachelor level, mostly you will associate with the task level. Philosophical level, you have to go on to the master and the PhD level. And there will be few who will come to the level of Karl Marx and Chomsky and Iqbal. And I think in Pakistan, we do have many of them who speak at the philosophical level. And for example, if you can look at all the different logical philosophical models, time has come of the mixed model, that you bring in the qualitative and quantitative mindset together to address the questions of the society, to address the questions of the industry, to address the questions of the government, and to address the questions of the state. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for such an insightful talk and discussion. Thank you, sir. We will keep inviting you for more sessions with us. Thank you again for accepting our invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Allah
Thank
Hafiz,
you all.
everyone.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.